Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. A scandal at the Gala. She bit the billionaire and triggered an unbelievable turn of events. The night began like any other high-profile charity gala in New York City. Crystal chandeliers glowing like suspended stars, champagne flutes ringing with the soft clink of wealth, and polished floors reflecting every shimmering gown and tuxedo. But Ava Moretti didn't fit into any of it. She stood behind the service curtain with a borrowed uniform a size too big, clutching a tray of empty glasses she'd been told to sweep up because another staff member had called out sick. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from exhaustion mixed with adrenaline. Rent was overdue, her mother's medical bills were piling up, and this temporary gig was the last thread holding her entire life together. She whispered to herself, "Just get through the night, Ava. $150. You can do this," then stepped out toward the shadows near the ballroom's edge, avoiding the polished guests who floated through the room like they owned the sky. Everything was fine until she heard a sharp gasp, a muffled protest, and the sound of a heel scraping marble. Ava jerked her head toward a dim corner behind a floral display where she saw a tall man gripping the wrist of a woman whose unsteady body leaned dangerously backward. The woman's mascara was smeared, her breath quick and uneven, and Ava's brain didn't register context, only danger. She dropped her tray. Glass shattered across the floor. Someone turned. Someone whispered, but Ava was already running. Her sneakers slid on the marble as she lunged forward, instinct overriding caution. She didn't shout. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the man's arm, and when he twisted, startled, Ava reacted with the same instinct she'd learned growing up in a rough neighborhood where hesitation cost survival. She bit him. Hard. His breath caught, pain flashing across his face as he pulled back. Gasps rippled through the ballroom like a shockwave. "Oh my God! Did she just bite Damian Blackwell?" one woman shrieked. Cameras whipped around. Security rushed in. The woman Ava thought she was saving blinked, confused, and whispered, I tripped. He was helping me." Ava froze mid-breath. Damian Blackwell, Billionaire CEO, host of the Gala, the man she'd just attacked. Her stomach plummeted as security surrounded them. Someone grabbed her elbow. Someone else demanded her name. A staff manager hissed, "You are finished. Do you even realize what you've done?" Ava couldn't speak. She saw the blood on Damian's hand. She backed away until her shoulders hit the wall, heart pounding like a trapped animal's. Damian stared at her, not with rage, but something colder, something unreadable. He finally said, "She needs to learn to stop fighting ghosts." His voice was calm, too calm, and it cut deeper than anger. Ava's chest tightened with humiliation, but fear overpowered everything. She knew what a lawsuit from a billionaire would do to her life. She knew she could lose school, lose her home, lose her mother's chance at treatment. As security escorted her through the service hallway, her bracelet, her mother's old silver one, snapped, bouncing onto the polished floor. Damian bent down, picked it up, read the engraving, and watched Ava disappear behind the door. She didn't see it. She didn't see his eyes narrow with something like recognition. She didn't see that the worst night of her life had already changed its direction. And she had no idea that this single, desperate act, this bite, was about to pull her into a world she never belonged to and reveal secrets powerful enough to destroy a dynasty. Comment yes if you want part 2. The moment the service door slammed shut behind Ava, the world felt smaller, tighter, like the air itself was shrinking around her. A security guard marched her down the dim hallway, the echo of her own frantic heartbeat bouncing against the cold concrete walls. Every step away from the bright chandeliers and polished marble reminded her how fast a life could tilt from barely holding on to free fall. Once outside, she wrapped her arms around herself against the bitter night wind. New York was loud, but in that moment it felt painfully silent. Her phone buzzed. A notification from the hospital. Another bill. Another reminder that she could not afford mistakes. She whispered, "Mom, I am trying," even though no one could hear her. By the time she reached the subway, The adrenaline had faded, replaced with the creeping horror of what she had done. She bit a billionaire. A real billionaire. Damian Blackwell. The man every magazine either loved or feared. And worst of all, she embarrassed him in front of hundreds of high society guests. She sat on the cold metal bench, hugging her elbows. Her bracelet was gone. Her mother's bracelet. The engraved one that had survived eviction after eviction. She had worn it through every exam, every job interview, every desperate shift. Losing it felt like losing a piece of her mother's strength. But there was no going back. Not after what had happened. When the train screeched into the station, she boarded and tried to shut down her thoughts. But her mind replayed the moment on loop. Her teeth sinking into Damian's hand, the shock in his dark eyes, the whispering guests, the cameras turning toward her like a swarm of hungry insects. She feared waking up tomorrow. She feared he would sue. She feared he would not. At dawn, Ava dragged herself into her tiny apartment. She checked her mother, who slept lightly in the bedroom, thin and pale from weeks of weak medication while they waited for the surgery date they could not afford. Ava kissed her mother's forehead and whispered, "I will fix this." Somehow, when she finally collapsed onto her worn couch, she realized her phone had 10 missed calls from an unknown number. And one message, report to Blackwell Tower. 9th floor, 11 a.m. Ava stared at it, confused, then terrified, then furious. Is he really calling me in just to destroy me in person? But she could not ignore it. She needed to know. At exactly 11 a.m., she entered the glass skyscraper that felt like another planet. The receptionist glanced at her cheap jeans and thrift store jacket, but said nothing, only gestured her toward the elevator. When the doors opened on the 9th floor, Ava stepped into a sleek conference room where the entire event staff from last night sat in rows. And at the front, Damian Blackwell. His hand was wrapped in a beige bandage. Her stomach dropped. Damian's eyes flicked to her with an unreadable expression before he addressed the room. "We are here to review what happened last night," he said. "The incident. That created unnecessary chaos." Unnecessary. Ava swallowed hard. She waited for the hammer to fall. Instead, Damian continued. "Before I move forward, I want to make one thing clear. No one is filing charges." A shocked whisper rippled across the room. Ava blinked. Damian glanced at her again. "Last night's reaction," he said, pausing because everyone knew he meant her bite, "was not an attack. It was a misinterpretation. And misinterpretations often reveal more truth than the surface." Ava stiffened. He was analyzing her like a case file. And then he dropped a binder on the table. "Security footage from every angle has been reviewed. I know exactly what happened. And I know exactly who was responsible." Ava felt heat creep up her neck. Responsible. He meant her. But then Damian said, "The woman in danger. The instability in that corner. The missing security guard who abandoned his post. And the person who reacted faster than anyone else in the room." Ava blinked. Faster. Was he defending her? Damian continued. "Which is why I have one question for you," he said, turning fully toward her. "Ava Moretti, why did you run toward danger instead of away from it?" The room went silent. And Ava realized this was not a lawsuit. This was something else. Something she could not yet name. Comment yes if you want part 3. For a long moment Ava could not speak. Damian's question hung in the air like a weight pressing on her chest, and every pair of eyes in the room drilled into her. Why did she run toward danger instead of away from it? The truth tasted bitter and complicated, shaped by years she would rather forget. She inhaled slowly. "Because where I grew up, danger does not wait politely for you to think," she said. "If you see someone about to get hurt, you act. You do not freeze. You do not assume someone else will step in. You help." Her voice did not shake, even though her stomach did. Damian watched her with a stillness that made the air feel tense. "So it was instinct," he said softly. Ava nodded once. "Instinct. Reflex. Survival. Call it whatever you want. I was wrong, but I did not act to harm you." The event staff shifted uncomfortably, unsure if she was digging her grave or climbing out of it. Damian glanced down at his bandaged hand for a moment, then back at her with a strangely unreadable expression. "Most people," he said, "would have looked the other way." Ava met his gaze. "Then maybe most people should not be in the same room as someone who needs help." A murmur spread through the employees. Damian did not flinch. If anything, something faint, almost like approval, flickered in his eyes. He dismissed the staff, and one by one they filed out, leaving Ava alone with him in the wide glass-walled room that overlooked half the city. The silence was heavy. Damian finally spoke. "I reviewed every second of the footage," he said. "You were the only one who reacted." Ava lowered her eyes, unsure what he wanted from her. An apology? A confession? A promise never to show her face again? Instead, Damian walked slowly toward the table, picked up a folder, and set it between them. "You mentioned instinct," he said. "That is something I cannot teach. And right now, I need someone who is not afraid to act on instinct." Ava frowned, confused. "For what?" Damian folded his arms. "I want you to work for me temporarily. Internal review. Discreet. Your perspective is unique." Ava blinked. "You want the girl who bit you to work for you?" Damian raised an eyebrow slightly. It was a surprisingly effective way to get my attention. She almost choked. "Are you serious?" "Completely." She hesitated. "Why me?" For the first time since she met him, Damian's expression softened, not with pity, but with something that felt painfully human. "Because someone tampered with the security system at the gala. And you are the only person in that entire room who was not trying to hide something." Ava's breath caught. "Tampered? That meant sabotage. But I do not know anything about security systems," she said. Damian shook his head. "You know people. You read danger better than any guard in that building. Trust me, I have met enough liars in my lifetime to recognize when someone is not one." She stared at him, stunned. "I cannot afford to lose more hours at my actual job," she whispered. "And my mother is ill." Damian cut in calmly. "This pays triple whatever you make now." Ava's heart slammed hard. Triple? That money could buy medication. It could buy time. It could buy survival. But then the fear returned. "And what if the media finds out?" she asked. "What if people think you hired me because of the bite?" Damian's face darkened with a seriousness that felt absolute. "No one will know. And if anyone tries to twist it, I will handle it." He held her gaze, steady and controlled. "You are not the scandal here, Ava. You are the only person who did not pretend last night." She swallowed. Every instinct in her body warned her that this was dangerous in a very different way. A quiet danger that involved stepping into a world where she did not belong. But she also knew opportunity never knocked twice. Especially not for someone like her. Slowly, she nodded. "Fine," she said. "I will do it." A flicker, relief or satisfaction, crossed Damian's face. "Good. Then we start now." As he handed her the restored security files, Ava did not notice one thing. On the corner of his desk lay her silver bracelet, polished and repaired, waiting for the moment he chose to give it back. Comment, yes if you want part 4. The moment Ava agreed to work with Damian, the energy in the room shifted, like a silent contract neither of them fully understood had just locked into place. She followed him down the hallway, her steps careful, trying to absorb everything without looking overwhelmed. Blackwell Tower was a different universe compared to the cramped apartment she came from, and she felt the difference in every breath. As they entered a private workspace lined with screens and secure servers, Damian handed her a tablet loaded with the raw footage. "Focus on the 30 minutes before the incident," he said. "Patterns matter. Small things. People who should not have been there." Ava sank into the chair, forcing herself to ignore the sleek leather and the skyline stretching beyond the glass wall. She replayed the footage again and again, watching the faces, the movements, the angles. It was like rearranging pieces of a puzzle where some pieces belonged to someone else. And the more she watched, the more something felt off. One woman in a red gown passed the same corner 3 times within minutes. A waiter who claimed to be new navigated the floor with too much confidence. A security guard disappeared from his post at the exact moment the ballroom lights dimmed. Ava leaned closer. "This is not random," she whispered. Damian, who had been standing behind her, arms folded, turned his head slightly. "Explain." Ava tapped the screen. "People do not circle the same route unless they are watching something. And that waiter is not new. His posture is too relaxed. And this guard, he vanishes right when the lights shift. That is coordination." Damian's eyes sharpened. "Show me." She replayed each clip, narrating the things most people would overlook. Damian watched her with quiet intensity, leaning closer, absorbing every detail. "You see things differently," he murmured. Ava shrugged. "Growing up where I did, you learn to spot danger before it spots you." There was admiration in his silence, but also something else, curiosity. As she continued reviewing the footage, she paused suddenly. A man in a dark suit brushed past the security console just minutes before the incident. "Who was that?" she asked. Damian stiffened. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "That is Marian Locke's assistant." Ava frowned. "The one who handles media relations?" "Yes." Something heavy entered Damian's voice. She did not know the full history between him and Marian, but she could sense tension there, something old and unresolved. "Is he allowed near the security console?" she asked. "No," Damian said tightly. "Not even my executive team gets that level of access." Ava sat back slowly. "So someone with higher clearance helped him?" Damian did not respond, but his expression said it all. The truth was closing in. Suddenly, Ava's phone buzzed. She glanced down and her heart dropped. A message from her neighbor. "Your mother fainted. We called an ambulance." Her chest constricted. She shot up from the chair so fast it startled Damian. "I have to go," she said, grabbing her bag. "My mother. Something happened." Damian stepped toward her without hesitation. "I will take you." "No, I will be fine." "Ava," he said firmly. "You are shaking." Only then did she realize her hands were trembling so violently she could hardly grip her phone. Damian guided her toward a private elevator, and within moments they were in his car, the city blurring past as he drove with a focus that left no room for questions. At the hospital, Ava rushed down the corridor toward her mother's room. Doctors reassured her it was exhaustion and blood pressure, but the fear clung to her like ice. When she finally stepped back out into the hallway, Damian was waiting in a seat by the wall, elbows on his knees, looking oddly out of place in his tailored suit. "Is she all right?" he asked quietly. Ava nodded, wiping a tear she had not realized had fallen. "She will be, but only if I keep earning. I cannot lose this job." Damian rose slowly. "You will not. And from now on, you do not carry this alone." There was no arrogance in his tone, no pity, just truth. And somehow that scared Ava more than anything else. Comment yes if you want part 5. The hospital hallway felt colder than the air outside, as if the walls themselves absorbed every fear Ava carried. When she stepped out of her mother's room, her breathing finally slowed, but the tension in her chest did not ease. Damian waited exactly where she left him, hands clasped loosely, eyes steady. It struck her how strange it was that a billionaire, a man who probably had a dozen meetings lined up, had stayed without being asked. She approached him cautiously. "She will be all right," Ava said softly. "They want her to rest." Her blood pressure dropped too fast. Damian nodded. "Then we keep moving forward." "You have a sharp mind, Ava. We need it." "What about my mother?" she asked. "I cannot leave her alone for long." "Understood," Damian replied. "I will have a car pick you up and drop you off every day. You will not waste time commuting." She shook her head. "I did not agree to perks." "This is not a perk," he said. "It is efficiency and safety." His tone carried a quiet certainty that made it clear he was used to being obeyed, yet something about it felt protective rather than controlling. For the first time since the gala, Ava felt the ground beneath her feet steady a little. Over the next few days, their work slipped into a strange rhythm. Damian gave her documents and clipped segments of footage to review. Ava analyzed everything with the eyes of someone who had spent her life reading danger before it exploded. They worked in the secure office room, sometimes in complete silence, sometimes trading observations. Slowly, trust formed in the spaces between their words. By Friday, Ava found something new. She leaned over the screen and froze. "Damian," she said, "look at this." He crossed the room and leaned in close enough that she could feel his breath. She pointed at a frame where the assistant in the dark suit passed a sealed envelope to the same waiter who pretended to be new. "That envelope," Ava whispered. "It was never part of the official distribution. And look, you can see the security tag on it. That is the Blackwell internal seal." Damian's jaw tightened. "No one outside my executive level should ever have that." "So someone above him supplied it," Ava said. "And based on the angle, this was meant to go unnoticed." She enlarged the image, and something inside Damian shifted. His shoulders locked, his expression hardened. "That is the seal only Marian Locke handles directly," he said. Ava felt a chill. Why would she give an envelope to a fake waiter? Damian looked away, his posture tense, heavy with a past she could not yet see. "She was once my father's trusted strategist. When he died, She expected to control the company. I did not let her. Ava studied him. So she is trying to take it back. Damian exhaled slowly. She has been waiting for an opportunity to undermine me. Maybe this was never about the gala at all. Maybe it was about destroying my public credibility. Ava shook her head, and she almost succeeded. If that clip had gone viral before you reviewed it, you would have looked like. She did not finish. She did not have to. Damian said quietly. Someone who could not be trusted around vulnerable people. Ava's throat tightened because she knew exactly what it felt like to be misjudged by a single moment. She turned back to the footage. We are close, Damian. We just need a key link between Marion and the security tampering. Damian moved to his desk, retrieved a drive, and handed it to her. This contains internal access logs. Only a handful of people know about its existence. She booted it up and scrolled through metadata. Her breath caught when she saw it. Here, Ava whispered. 2 hours before the gala started, Marion used her clearance to override the security system. She masked it under a routine update. Damian's eyes darkened. She planted the perfect stage and used your assistant to deliver the envelope to the fake waiter, Ava added. Then someone dimmed the lights so the manipulated footage looked real. Damian stepped closer, voice low. You just found the missing piece. Ava's palms grew cold. This is enough to expose her. He nodded. But we must be careful. If we confront her without a complete picture, she will spin this against us. Ava understood. So we gather more. Together, Damian said. The word lingered between them, heavier than it should have been. She swallowed. Together. As they returned to the screens, neither of them noticed that outside the glass wall, a figure stood watching silently, eyes narrowed. And that figure was Marion Locke. Comment yes if you want part 6. The corridor outside the secure room felt colder than usual, as if the entire tower sensed the shift in tension. Ava had no idea that Marion Locke had been standing outside the glass wall, watching them connect dots that were never meant to be found. But Ava felt something strange when she stepped into the elevator later that evening, a heaviness in the air that made the back of her neck prickle. Damian noticed it too. You are quiet, he said as he walked beside her toward the private exit. You usually have 10 theories ready the moment you see a suspicious shadow. Ava tried to smile. Just tired. My mother, the footage, everything, it is stacking up. Damian pressed the elevator button and glanced at her. You handled today better than most people with 5 times your training. I hope you know that. Ava felt a strange heat in her chest at his words, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. A single text message appeared from an unknown number. Stop digging. Her breath caught. Damian noticed instantly. What is it? Ava hesitated. She did not want to look paranoid, but she also knew her instincts had never failed her. Someone just sent me a warning, she said softly. They know we are investigating. Damian's expression hardened instantly. Show me. She handed him the phone. He studied the screen with a cold seriousness that made her shoulders tense. This is not a random threat, he said. This is deliberate. Ava whispered. You think it is Marion? Damian nodded once. She is getting nervous. That means we are close. But Ava could not shake the feeling that she had stepped into something far more dangerous than corporate politics. She remembered the envelope, the disguised waiter, the guard who disappeared, the manipulated footage designed to detonate his reputation in front of the entire elite society. What is her endgame? Ava asked. Why go through all this trouble? Damian exhaled slowly. There is a vote next quarter. A vote that determines who controls Blackwell Dynamics. If she destroys my credibility, investors will side with her. She will take the company my father built. Ava felt a sting of sympathy she did not expect. And she used the gala because everyone important was there. Exactly, Damian said. One scandal, one misleading clip, and the board would have a reason to remove me. Ava shook her head, frustrated. And when that failed because I bit you, she adjusted the plan and started watching us. Damian's gaze sharpened. She underestimated you. For a moment, the elevator hummed softly around them as silence settled between them again. Ava finally said, So what now? Damian replied, We gather more evidence. Enough to expose her publicly, with no room for spin. When the elevator opened into the parking garage, Ava stepped out first and froze. Someone had scratched a long, jagged mark across the side of the car that had picked her up earlier. It spelled one word. Stop. Damian moved in front of her instinctively, scanning the shadows. His voice dropped to a command. Stay behind me. Ava obeyed, heart hammering against her ribs. The garage was quiet, too quiet. Damian's security team rushed over seconds later, and he ordered them to sweep the area. But Ava felt the message clear as day. This was no subtle warning. This was a threat. Damian turned to her. You cannot go home tonight, he said firmly. It is not safe. I have to check on my mother, Ava insisted, panic rising. I cannot just disappear on her. You will not, Damian said. I will send a guard to stay outside her room. And you will stay somewhere secure. Ava frowned. Where is secure? Damian locked eyes with her. My penthouse. Her pulse jumped. Damian, that is too much. I am not. This is not about comfort, he cut in. This is about keeping you alive. Marion has crossed a line. I will not let her get to you. Ava swallowed hard. She wanted to argue. She wanted to insist she could handle herself. But the scratched thread on the car and the warning text replayed in her mind like a cold, echoing whisper. She finally nodded. All right, she said softly. Just until we know more. Damian stepped closer, lowering his voice. I promise you, Ava, I will end this. And I will make sure no one touches you again. She believed him. She did not know when it happened or why, but she believed him. Comment yes if you want part 7. The ride to Damian's penthouse was silent at first, filled only with the low hum of the city as it slid past the tinted windows. Ava sat rigidly, her fingers twisting in her lap, while Damian watched the road with the focused intensity of someone who had already calculated 3 different security risks before turning the ignition. His building rose into the sky like a shard of glass, reflecting the lights of Manhattan. When the elevator doors opened directly into his private residence, Ava felt her breath hitch. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched along the walls, revealing a sweeping view of the skyline. The space was modern, minimalistic, and spotless, but it felt strangely warm, as if someone lived here rather than displayed it. You can rest in the guest room, Damian said gently. Security will remain outside the door. No one gets in. Ava nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and unease. She had never stepped into a place like this. It felt like entering another world, one she did not belong to. As she walked deeper into the penthouse, she sensed Damian's eyes following her, not with possession but with worry he did not bother to hide. You are safe here, he said. I promise. Ava gave him a small smile before disappearing into the guest room. Hours later, after she showered and changed into the soft clothes left in the closet, she wandered into the living area, unable to sleep. The city lights spilled across the room, casting him in a quiet glow as he stood near the window, phone in hand, talking in a low voice. Increase surveillance around her mother's room, he said. I do not care what it costs. And find out who accessed her information. Someone is feeding Marion details she should not have. He turned and froze when he saw Ava watching him. She looked down quickly, embarrassed to overhear something she was not meant to. Damian slipped the phone into his pocket. You should be resting, he said. I cannot, she admitted. My mind is racing. He hesitated, then motioned for her to join him. Near the window. Sit, he said softly. She did, wrapping her arms around herself. I did not think my life could get any more complicated, Ava whispered. And then last night happened. Now everything feels like it is spinning. Damian leaned against the glass, studying her. Ava, you did not choose this, but you stepped into it bravely. You have handled yourself better than people who have been trained for years. She shook her head. I bit you. That is not bravery. Damian chuckled softly, the sound surprising both of them. Actually, it might have saved me. She blinked. What do you mean? If you had not caused that disruption, he said, the manipulated footage would have spread before I could stop it. Marion would have won. The board would have turned against me. Ava stared at him, stunned. So I saved you by accident? Yes, he said quietly. And that is something I cannot ignore. A long silence settled between them, thick with the unspoken tension neither of them dared name. Finally, Ava exhaled. Damian, what if Marion targets you next? What if she escalates? Damian's gaze hardened. That is exactly why we must act first. We expose her, not privately, but in front of the entire board. Ava felt a knot form in her stomach. That will be dangerous. Everything worth protecting is, Damian said. He moved closer, his tone dropping. Ava, you are not just assisting me. You are the key to uncovering the truth. Marion is watching us because she fears what you will find next. Ava whispered. Then we have to stay ahead of her. He nodded. Together. She felt the word again, lingering in the air. Together. It terrified her. It steadied her. And it pulled her into a world she never expected to stand in. As the city glowed around them, Ava realized the truth. This was no longer just an investigation. It was a war. And she and Damian were now on the same side. Comment yes if you want part 8. The next morning unfolded with the sharp clarity of a decision that could no longer be postponed. Damian and Ava stood side by side in the secure office, the city still waking behind the glass wall as they gathered the last pieces of evidence. Damian had barely slept, and Ava could tell by the faint shadow beneath his eyes, even though he carried himself with the same unshakable command he wore like armor. Ava was exhausted too, but something deeper than fear now fueled her, purpose. She loaded the final files onto the encrypted tablet, then turned to Damian. This is everything, she said. Access logs, the envelope handoff, the tampered security feed. Once we show this, there is no going back. Damian nodded. That is exactly the point. But Ava hesitated. Damian, this will destroy her. And she will not go down quietly. She will blame you. She will blame me. She will twist anything she can. Damian stepped closer. If we do nothing, she wins. If we tell the truth, she falls. And the truth is the only thing that keeps this company alive. His voice carried a quiet intensity that struck Ava deep in her chest. Then he added softly, You gave me back that truth. She blinked, momentarily speechless. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. Board meeting advanced to 1 hour. Mandatory attendance. Marian requested it. Ava exhaled sharply. She knows. Damian's jaw tightened. Good. Let her think she is ahead. He moved to the desk, pulled open a drawer, and retrieved something. When he turned around, Ava felt her breath catch. It was her silver bracelet, clean, polished, the clasp repaired with delicate precision. He held it in his palm, the engraving catching the morning light. I meant to give this back sooner, he said quietly. It fell near the stage after the incident. I had it repaired. Ava's throat tightened. You fixed it. He nodded. It reminded me of something my father used to say. He believed courage was not loud. It was the quiet decision to stand when others sit. You showed that the night you bit me. Her face flushed with embarrassment, but the sincerity in his voice washed away the sting. Damian gently placed the bracelet in her hand. Wear it today, he said. Consider it a reminder that you belong in that room as much as anyone else. Ava clasped it onto her wrist, feeling something shift inside her. Not romantic. Not yet. But something deeply human. Trust forming in a place she never expected. As they headed toward the elevator, the tension thickened. They were walking into Marian's territory. Into a trap disguised as a meeting. But they walked in together. When they entered the boardroom, the atmosphere was electric. Executives sat stiffly in their seats. Cameras blinked from the corners. And at the head of the table stood Marian Locke. Her smile was cold, too sharp, too confident. Damian, she said smoothly. How surprising to see you early. I could say the same, he answered. Ava stayed at his side, clutching the tablet. Marian's eyes flicked toward her with a sneer. And who is this? The girl who attacked our CEO at the gala? Interesting choice of company. Ava felt the burn of humiliation, but before she could respond, Damian spoke with a firm calm that sliced through the tension. She is here because the truth is here. And today, everyone is going to see it. Marian arched a brow. Truth? Or another one of your desperate attempts to protect your crumbling reputation? Let us find out, Damian said. He signaled Ava. Her fingers trembled slightly as she tapped the tablet, sending the curated footage to the large monitor at the front of the room. Silence fell. The room watched the tampered video first, the one meant to destroy Damian. Then the real footage rolled, frame by frame, exposing the manipulation, the envelope exchange, the security override logs tied directly to Marian's clearance. Gasps echoed. Someone whispered, she sabotaged him. Marian lunged forward. This is outrageous. Fabricated. She is lying. He is lying. Damian's voice cut through her panic. You orchestrated an attack on your own CEO. You weaponized public perception. And you used a staged incident to push for my removal. Marian's face twisted. You have no proof. Ava stepped forward. You are looking at it. For a moment, Marian's mask slipped entirely, revealing desperation underneath. Then she hissed. You think this little nobody can take me down? Damian stepped between them. She already has. Shock rippled through the room. Chairs scraped. Security guards moved in. Marian's composure finally cracked, and she shouted as they approached her. This is not over. Damian turned away, ignoring her. The moment he met Ava's eyes, something shifted, relief, gratitude, and something deeper neither of them named. He said softly, Ava, you just changed everything. And she believed him. Comment yes if you want part 9. The boardroom descended into chaos the moment security escorted Marian out, her shouts echoing down the hallway like a final, desperate warning. But inside the room, something else unfolded, something quiet, powerful, and irreversible. The board members murmured among themselves, glancing between the exposed evidence on the monitors and Damian, who stood beside Ava with a calmness that felt almost unreal after the storm they had just weathered. When Damian finally dismissed the meeting, executives filed out slowly, some offering him respectful nods they had not given him earlier, acknowledging the truth they had witnessed. Only when the last person left did Damian turn to Ava, his expression softened by a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. You saved more than my position today, he said quietly. You saved the company my father built. Ava shook her head gently. No, you saved it by trusting the right people. For a moment, neither of them moved. The silence carried something unspoken. Then Damian cleared his throat softly. Come with me. There is something I need to show you. He led her through a side corridor, past the heavy glass doors, into a gallery-like hallway bathed in soft white lighting. Ava's steps slowed as she saw framed photographs lining the walls, snapshots of workers, engineers, community projects funded by the company, and memories of achievements she never realized Blackwell Dynamics held dear. But one frame near the end stood out. It displayed a single item behind museum-quality glass. Ava froze. It was her bracelet. Not the old, worn version she had lost, but a restored, gleaming version surrounded by a small engraved plaque that read, Courage is quiet. Her breath caught. Damian, what is this? He stepped beside her, hands in his pockets, voice softer than she had ever heard it. A reminder, he said, of the moment everything changed, of the person who changed it. She swallowed, overwhelmed. You put my bracelet in your company's gallery? Because it represents something this company forgot, he said. Integrity. Instinct. Doing the right thing even when there is no reward. Ava traced the glass lightly with her fingertips. But this is too much. No, Damian said firmly. It is not enough. He turned toward her fully, the city skyline reflecting in his eyes. Ava, you stood by me when you had every reason to run. You saw danger before anyone else. You fought for a truth that was not even yours. And you paid the price with fear and threats against your life. Ava whispered, I would do it again. His breath hitched, only slightly, but enough that she noticed. For the first time, he took a careful step closer, as if crossing a boundary he had been holding back from since the night of the gala. There is one more thing, he said. He handed her a folder. Ava opened it, expecting more evidence or documents for the board. Instead, she froze. It was a full-time contract, high salary, protected status, flexible schedule, and complete medical coverage for her mother. Damian, her voice broke. You did not have to do this. I know, he said, but you earned it. This is not charity. This is recognition. Tears welled in Ava's eyes as she clutched the folder. Thank you. Damian smiled faintly, the kind of smile that reached the corners of his eyes, unguarded and genuine. Ava, there is one more thing I would like to offer you. Not as your employer. Not as the man whose hand you bit. She laughed softly, wiping a tear. Then what are you offering? Damian drew a breath, steady and certain. Dinner. Tonight. No work. No threats. Just us. Ava stared at him, stunned, then slowly smiled. I think I would like that. Good, he said, the relief in his voice unmistakable. They stood there together, the glass case glowing behind them, the plaque reflecting a truth they both now understood. The scandal that began with a bite had become the moment their lives changed forever. As they walked side by side toward the elevator, Ava glanced back one last time at her bracelet, the symbol of the courage she never knew she possessed. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Comment yes if you want a bonus epilogue.